Hello everyone, good morning. We are going to wait a little bit more, maybe 2-3 minutes more, then we will start. Thank you. So good morning and thank you for joining us today. My name is Erika Quiñones and I'm from Eco-Imagination, a non-profit organization based in the south of France. And we are the communication and dissemination leading partner in the BioFairNet project. We are starting today with this online session and later we will continue with an in-person session here in East France. This event focused on how BioFairNet contributes to advancing sustainable transitions through bioeconomy and circular approaches. This session was created to provide an overview of the project and to share key insights and results that can support stakeholders. And of course, it's a great opportunity to further exchange ideas and also interact directly with you. In this presentation, I will introduce the project, its main objectives, the approach that we are taking, and the results achieved so far, and with a particular focus on how this can support the stakeholders in practice. So let's start with the presentation. As you know, Europe stands at a critical crossroads facing environmental degradation, results of exploitation, and increasing climate pressures. There is a clear need to shift from linear models of resource use towards a more sustainable and biocircular systems. However, this transition is not straightforward. It's not easy. There is often a significant gap between policy frameworks, real-world implementation on the ground, and industry support of interest. We know that achieve the transition to a biocircular economy, it's not easy. It's highly complex as it involves multiple sectors, value chains, regions, So this creates significant challenge for the stakeholders who need to implement the transition in real and often specific and particular contexts. So to better understand how to address these challenges, it is important to look at the broader European policy framework. And at the European level, the bioeconomy is framed as a key policy approach to support this transition. The European bioeconomy strategy takes a holistic perspective of sustainability. It means that integrate the environmental, the economic, and the social dimension and act as a cross-sectoral approach. This means that it applies across different value chains and sectors and also supports the circular use of biological resources, while also address key trade-off and co-benefits, such as resource use, biodiversity, and the decrease of emissions. So in overall, bioeconomy is providing results. The bioeconomy contributes to key objectives, including the management of natural resources sustainably, the mitigation and adaptation to climate change, the reduction of the dependence on non-renewable or unsustainable resources, and also points to ensure food and nutrition security and to strengthen competitiveness, job creation, and social inclusion. So bioeconomy is providing solutions to support the stakeholders, being a comprehensive framework that drives sustainable and circular transformation. It's important to understand how these challenges and opportunities play out, of course, in specific sectors. So among the different sectors involved in this transition, there are two that stand out as a particular relevant. There are the agriculture sector and the mining sector. So these sectors are the major contributors to greenhouse gas emissions and resource use, while also they play a key role in the European economy and the regional development. At the same time, these sectors, they are deeply rooted in existing systems and value chains, which make the transition more complex, of course. However, they are also under the increasing pressure to move towards to more sustainable and circular models. So that's why they have significant potential for circular and bio-based circular value creation. For example, talking about the agricultural sector, regions such as the Pio Valley in Italy, the agriculture account for up to 97% of ammonia emissions. So this shows how concentrated and complex environmental pressures can be. If we talk about the mining sector, the situation is quite different, but equally challenging. Environmental impacts such as water contamination, soil degradation can persist long after destruction activities have stopped. So in addition, entire communities in this kind of sectors are affected by structural transitions, making this not only an environmental challenge, but also an economic and a social one. And this is why BioFairNet focus on this sector in the mining and agricultural sector, because they are key entry points for the transition and also for the development of the models. So having this context and in response to this challenge in key sectors, BioFairNet has been designed. BioFairNet is Bioeconomy and Circular Economy Fair Network. And it's designed as a project that takes a systemic and an integrated approach. It's a Horizon Europe Innovation Action Project, and it's running over 4 years, and it involves 13 partners across Europe. This project focuses on agriculture and mining sector, as I said before, as a key areas for the biocircular transition. And what makes this project particularly relevant is that it's not approach the transition as purely technical issue. It also takes this approach and transition as a systemic and territorial challenge. What this means, it means that we are not only considering technologies, new pathways, transformation pathways, but also we are considering a specific condition of regions, value change, stakeholders involved. So in overall, the project aims to support the transition towards a more sustainable and biocircular systems. We're combining analysis, stakeholders engagement, and of course, practical implementation. It needs real action. So to achieve this, the project is structured around a key set of objectives. The first one is to support the transition through an integrated biocircular approach, linking the sustainable dimensions, it means environmental, economic, and social dimensions. The second one is to develop a data-driven system. We call it the Green Information Factory, which supports analysis and decision-making. And the third one is to enable the stakeholder-driven co-creation process. What we want is to ensure that solutions are developed together with those who will use them in practice. And the last objective is that the project wants to deliver actionable transition pathways at the territorial level. This is translating analysis and insights in concrete action. So these objectives, as you can see, reflects the need to combine data to gather stakeholders and in real context effectively support the transition. So to achieve these objectives, BioFairNet follows a structured and stepwise approach. The process starts with mapping all the value chain and identifying high impact hotspots to understand where the transition is the most needed. Sorry. No, it's this one, sorry. In parallel, after the mapping and the identification of the hotspot, we engage the stakeholders. So the stakeholders are actively engaged through co-creation process. What we want is to ensure that their perspectives and the needs are integrated from the beginning and during the whole project. This is followed by a sustainability analysis, which combines environmental, economic, and social dimensions and supports the development of the transition pathways. These solutions there are then tested and validated in real environmental conditions through pilot cases, ensuring that they are feasible and applicable in practice. And finally, all of this is integrated into the Green Information Factory in the digital platform, a digital system that supports decision-making and implementation. A key element that I want to highlight in our approach is that the stakeholders' engagement and co-creation ensures that the project remains grounded in real needs, in real context. So rather than developing solutions in isolation, BioFairNet actively involves stakeholders across sectors and regions from the very beginning. So what we do is that we we generate continuous interaction through workshops, consultation, participation activities, conference. And through this process, we are able to identify real barriers, needs, and opportunities emerging from practice. So we are taking into account the information that have the real actors. And what is really important is that the input is not only collected, but it's directly integrated into the system design and the development of the transition pathways. So what we ensure is that the solution developed are not only technical sound, they are also relevant, usable, and applicable in real contexts. Yeah, that this enable us to not only a transition that is sustainable, but it's also fair and inclusive. We are including the actors. And this approach has already led some concrete results, which I will present in the next slide for sure. So we have been working for 1.5 years. The project is now at the month 18. And at this stage, the project has delivered several key outcomes. The first one is that key regions and impact hotspots have been identified. So we now understand, we have a clear understanding of where the transition is most needed. The second key outcome is that after 1.5 years, we have a strong stakeholder engagement. And this is having established with the co-creation process. And we want to ensure that the interaction and the input of the stakeholders are across the sectors and different regions. In parallel, our pilot activities are already generating initial results in real environments. So this is allowing us to test and validate solution pathways in practice. And after 1.5 years working in our technology part, the Green Formation Factory has now been deployed in a beta version. So now we have a first view of how will be the operational version of our digital system. It's important to say that all these results are closely connected and that we are advancing on create tools that will contribute to the transition. I'm going to explain a little bit each result. And I wanted to start with the stakeholders engagement that has been a central component of the project. And a key part of these results come from the insights gathered through and from them. We have now more than 2,000 stakeholders involved in the project across different sectors and different countries. And this engagement has taken place through surveys, different workshops, and stakeholder consultation. And this allowed us to capture real experience in practice. So through this process, stakeholders have clearly identified key barriers to the transition. And we know that more than 70% of the stakeholders highlighted that the high investment cost, followed by the regulatory complexity and the limited access to finance are key barriers that are not allowing to go through the transition in a simple way. But however, beyond these structural challenges, another important insight emerged, and it was the cultural resistance. We know that there is a resistance to change the processes, and this was identified also as a significant barrier across the sector. Also, after all this continuous exchange, the stakeholders have expressed clear practical needs, like they need simple tools, better integration of data, and they need decision support system because they know that they need to do a transition, to change the process, to close the loop, but they don't have tools that help them. So there is a strong demand for collaboration, co-creation space where stakeholders also can exchange knowledge and develop solutions together. In parallel to this stakeholder engagement work, the project also carried out a detailed territorial analysis. How we do it? We did it. We have selected these regions and high impact hotspots by identification of different data driving, by a scientific and literature analysis based on the 3 dimensions, environmental, economic, and social factors. We focused also on territories with overlapping structural pressures. And with all this information, we represented strategic areas with high potential for impact. So what we have as a result after this territorial analysis is that the transition is not uniform across Europe. In the mining sector, this is reflected in regions such as the Iberian Pirate Belt and the Rhine-Select district, where legacy environmental impacts and structural transitions are particularly significant. And regarding agriculture, we identify regions like the Po Valley in Italy and also the Andalusia region that illustrate a different type of challenge, and it's linked to intensive production systems and also high resource pressures. So, as I said before, these regions were identified because they combine multiple pressures at once. It's not like there is only environmental pressure or only economical pressure or social pressure. No, we identify these regions because they have multiple pressures at once. And also what I want to highlight is that these hotspots are not only areas of concern. It's not that we have concern in these areas because the practice or the process are not being sustainable. Is that if we implement transition in these specific regions, with target actions, we can generate a high impact. It's because of that we also identify these regions as a potential spots to implement the transition and, of course, to implement our tools. So based on this analysis, the project moves from understanding the problem to extract information to testing solution in practice. So BioFairnet implements, we have two different pilots in real territorial context. So we have one pilot that is located in Lesbos, Greece, and the other is located in La Réunion, France, where solutions are tested and validated within a specific value chain. In Lesbos, we focus on the valorization of agricultural byproducts, while in La Reunión, the project explored bioenergy production from agroindustrial waste. An important aspect is that these pilots are not isolated. For example, biochar produced in Lesbos pilot can potentially be used in La Reunión process. So what we want is to test not only isolated cases, but also try to link results between different sectors. So we're trying to implement circular economy, not only in a specific case, but also include, open the bound and try to explore how we can close the loop also integrating sectors. And this demonstrates how the project goes beyond. So we want to explore and integrate circular approaches. The project will expand also its scope through two validation sites, different contexts, Canada and Kenya. And what we want is just to explore the transferability and also the scalability of the models. What is important also to highlight is that the data that we will take and validate in these pilot areas and also these validation sites are going to feed also the development of the Green Information Factory, and that is the project digital platform. So I've been talking about the digital platform and how all the data and results will be used, and how will be used to feed and generate the baseline of the Green Information Factory. But what is this Green Information Factory? So this platform is the digital backbone of the project of BioFairnet. It is a data-driven system and integrates all the information from pilot sites, stakeholders, territorial analysis, environmental and sustainability assessments, and different value chains. And based on this system enables in real time monitoring and analysis, supporting environmental and economic and social assessments. So in this way, it transforms complex results, complex data into meaningful insights that support the development of transition pathways. So these insights are then translated and they could be used as decision support tools that the stakeholders can use in practice. So the system, as I said before, was not designed in isolation. It's structured with co-design process with the work of engineers and also experts in bioeconomy and circular economy, including workshops and prioritization methods. So what we want with this platform or system is that will ensure that the system reflects real user needs and remain accessible and usable in practice. So in simple terms, the system works as follows. It starts by combining different types of data, environmental, economic, social, as I said before, pilots, stakeholders, value chains, etc. Then the data is processed and analyzed. And key aspects such as emissions, resource use, and economic performance will be translated into insights and simple visual tools that all the stakeholders can use it. And these insights will support the development of the transition pathways. It will be practical to identify, will help the stakeholders to identify the practical solutions, the circular solutions that they can use on its own processes. For example, as stakeholders want to explore how better use a waste or a biomass that is not used in its process. He want to improve efficiency in their operations, but he wants also to have an economic increase using this biomass that normally he doesn't use. So he could include its data and use the models that were already developed using other data from other regions, other systems, and etc., to know how he can develop a new transition pathway. And this is really important because it's a decision support tool. So if the agriculture or if the farmer could see in a simple way how can he improve its production and also close the loop and being more sustainable and create a circular approach in its production process, well, will be helping to make a decision and start to act. So the system is not only data driving, but also sustainability oriented and directly respond to a stakeholder's need that we identified before. He will be able to access to this tool and to use a practical tool. So building on this system, the project has planned a key outputs. At the core of the project, of course, is the digital platform and the toolkit. This which transform data, as I said before, into information for stakeholders. And around this, BioFairNet builds a broader ecosystem. This includes a strong stakeholder network and a community of practice, and this will enable to collaborate and to have action and active communication and knowledge exchange. And the project also provides and will provide policy recommendations and sector-specific roadmaps, helping to guide the transition in different contexts. We know that there is a big gap on policy. So the project will also include as a key output material that will provide recommendations that will help to the sectors to have clear roadmaps and specific information that will help the transition. In addition, capacity building activities to ensure that the stakeholders are enabled to use these tools, that they can effectively use it and implement it. So we will have some transferability webinars. We will have spaces to share with them and show them how the tools work. And also we will contribute to a transition of the project that is not only sustainable, but we may focus a lot in scalable solutions and tools that are real practical for the end users. And this is where the value of the project becomes tangible for the stakeholders. We know that the transition is complex and often difficult to implement in practice. And we know that many stakeholders face limited access to integrate and reliable data. And that it's a near clear for practical tools and to support and to move from analysis to action. And we know that it's a lack of coordination across sectors, across actors, and we have information that will able to reach stakeholders, to integrate, and this is why it's important, this project. This means that the challenge is not the lack of the data, but the lack of accessible and usable knowledge. And this is why we want to design tools that are accessible. We are designing to address this challenge and to collaborate in these sectors that we know that there are some gaps and that we know that they need different tools that can support and keep them more informed and start to act. So yes, I want you to invite you to stay engaged. The project, it's made from the stakeholders to stakeholders. BioFairNet provides access to different collaborative ecosystem and be part of the collaborative stakeholder network. If you are not, join the solution. You will be able to co-create with us. We are a group of experts that want to impact the regions in a good way. So please contact us. If you access to our platform, if you sign up with the community of practice, you will be able to use our digital platforms. You will be able to have data and results from our living labs and pilot activities. We will work close with you to create different pathways that are focused on your local context and that will access to decision supporting tools. Just to conclude, I want to invite you to join our community of practice. We have our website where you can join our community, also to participate in different surveys and consultations that we are currently doing, join an events and workshops. We this year will have a transferability webinar focused on artificial intelligence and technology in biocircular approaches. We will also want to invite you to our annual conference. It's at the University of Ferrara in Italy from the 2 to the 4th of December. It's free of charge and you will be able to find experts, results, and of course doing networking. So thank you so much for your attention. I will be happy and open if you have questions or if you want to share your experience or perspectives. And yeah. I think that someone is writing a question. Hello, thanks for the information. I have a question. Okay, we will wait your question for sure. Will the platform be open access? Yeah, for sure, for sure. We are funded by the European Union, and our core is to give information to the stakeholders and accessible tools. So the tool, the digital platform, the community of practice, the webinars, all our activities are free of charge, and we are open also to receive your information, your cases, your experience. For sure, it's free of charge. And then we have this, can this solution be replicated in other regions? Yes, actually, we have two validation areas, Canada and Kenya, but the idea is to have a robust platform that will allow you to include your information and also to use the results according to your process and your territorial context. So yes, can be replicated in other regions. Yeah, I don't know if we have another question. One, it's also writing something. What are you more specifically doing in the pilots? Thank you for the question. Well, we have two, one in Lesbos, and the project, the pilot focus on agricultural waste. So the goal is to transform this waste that it comes from the olive oil production using a process that it's called hydrothermal carbonization to produce biochar. And this biochar can be used, for example, to improve soils. It can support some, improve the physical and chemical conditions of the soil. But also this biochar can be used as a baseline to produce energy. So what we do in Lesbos is to turn in agricultural waste into useful products, and that's the idea, like making it circular. And in the case of the La Reunion, we are focused on agro-industrial waste, and we are taking especially from sugarcane sector. So what we want to do is to explore bioenergy production through two different processes, anaerobic and digestion process. So the idea is to take the waste and do this different process and produce energy. So this production will deliver methane and hydrogen. And this will be from the same like waste stream. So the goal is to maximize energy recovery from waste, because this waste will be traduced in energy, and the energy can also feed the initial process. So that's the idea. Also, we are exploring there if this energy transition can help in a island context, because sometimes the energy in the islands are really difficult. So if we can produce energy from the waste, not to say waste, but potential biomass or potential streams, this will help also the social context and economic context of the island. That's why that's in a small and simple way to say what are we doing in the pilots. I don't know if there is another question. I think so. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. As you know, we now are moving to our insight moment. We will let you in a couple minutes, and then we are going to start with a small roundtable and networking session here in France. So I just want to thank you for being here, for joining us. It's important to us to explain a little bit what are we doing and why it's important, this project for the economic and biocircular transition in Europe. So thank you so much for being here. And please be connected with, we have a LinkedIn profile, we have Instagram, we have Blue Sky, and of course, join our community of practice in our website. So thank you so much and have a lovely day. Thank you.